Hi everyone, meteorologist Ed Valley here, taking a look at our long-range video for today, Friday the 12th. Just a quick note, if you didn't watch Wednesdays, these are now Monday, Wednesday, Friday here through the winter season, and they will be focused again mostly on the long range. And again, if you want the detailed local information, I encourage you to look at your local videos if you receive those. So moving forward, a very interesting kind of up and down pattern that skews to the colder side in the 8 to 14 day, but there are some signals which we'll talk about in our 16 to 30 day forecast that do support a moderation after Thanksgiving into the first week to 10 days of December. So we're going to talk about that at length today. And you also notice we have some snow falling in the upper Midwest. That's another interesting tidbit to discuss, and you can see here, I'll zoom it out a little bit. You can see we had an inch, or excuse me, under an inch in parts of northeast Iowa. We had a couple inches of snow. I see 4.5 near Roslyn, South Dakota. So you can get the idea here. We saw, the first accumulating snow of the season for some, and it's just the beginning, as we know. So wanted to just touch on that. And through today, we're going to see this system move through the upper Midwest and move into the Great Lakes. Couple rain snow showers, but another follow-up disturbance develops here in the southern prairies and moves through the Dakotas and Midwest here Saturday afternoon, Saturday night into Sunday across the Great Lakes and Ohio Valley. Not a huge system, but it will put down anywhere between, you can see here, a tenth and maybe 3/10 of precipitation, and some of that will be in the form of snow. So let's take a look at that. You see that swath from the western parts of Saskatchewan into parts of North Dakota, Minnesota, Wisconsin, and down into parts of Michigan and maybe the Ohio Valley. You notice the further south you go, it's more just, we call it mood snow, just snow falling from the sky. But it does look like we're going to have this disturbance here this weekend. But as we get into next week, we're going to notice a warming trend, especially in the middle of the country, a pretty big storm possible early next week in the prairies. That'll be a discussion point. And then as we head into the week across the U.S., a cold front will slice through the middle of the country Tuesday, Wednesday. That might bring some showers south and east here for Wednesday into Wednesday night. But then behind it, we're colder to end next week into next weekend. So let's talk about this middle of the road pattern, looking from, let's say, next week or about this time through day 15, which is basically Black Friday. Okay, so this is the deal. We got a couple of features here we're watching. I'll be honest with you. You look at this pattern here in the northern latitudes here, the highest of latitudes, and I'll be honest that it's not a pattern that screams longevity, long-lived cold. Not the worst pattern I've ever seen. But when you have these lower heights in the higher latitudes, it's hard to get meaningful, long-lasting cold without kind of interludes of warmer weather, and that's what's likely coming. So we're cold here this weekend. We moderate with this ridge here for the middle of the week. Then that cold front slices through the middle of the country. And then by day 7, you're noticing a pretty good trough in the eastern U.S., extending from Hudson Bay down into the Great Lakes. Now, by day 10, though, you notice how the high latitude blocking has vacated near Greenland. There is a ridge that is pumping up here on the west coast of North America. That does have downstream colder impacts just because what goes up must come down, right? But how long does this thing linger? And what we're finding here is with the lack of high latitude blocking, there's going to be a period here, probably sometime right around Thanksgiving, where we're going to see this ridge kind of roll over across the middle of the country. And you'll see it here on the data. So you see here through about Thanksgiving, it's a pretty chilly look. But watch as day 14 and 15 come about. See this ridge kind of getting batted down and expanding eastward. Let me show you again. Day 12 compared to day 15. You see how it's kind of getting batted down a little bit and inching its way into the plains. And it may even attempt to elongate and meet up with this southeast ridge or the subtropical ridge down in the Caribbean. So what does that mean? Well, first of all, is guidance similar? That's always the $1 million question, right? And what we're noticing here in the 10 to 15 day is something similar. But it's interesting because look at the day 12 difference. European, keep an eye on Greenland. Day 12. Greenland, or Euro, GFS. See how much more blocking is in Greenland? That may allow the East to be a little bit colder into Thanksgiving week. But I think, again, it's important to acknowledge there's some differences here in the data. Canadian is actually pretty close to the GFS. So what does this mean? Well, by day 15, though, you see the kind of battle going on here in Greenland and Alaska, right? GFS, Euro, Canadian. So you notice a lot of this information is, frankly, pretty similar. The European seems to be an outlier here that is a little less impressive with the high latitude blocking. Regardless, even this type of pattern around day 15 would be a cooler one in the eastern U.S. You see that? All data says that, but look at the plains around this time. See how it's warming up pretty significantly? And I think this is the beginning of that rollover, like we said, right? So it's going to be a cooler period, no doubt, from sometime middle of next week onward towards Thanksgiving. But there are signs, as we just discussed, where this may not linger completely through the first week of December. There might be a warmer interlude. And why do I think that? Well, look at the EPO data. The EPO is the Eastern Pacific Oscillation. Notice how we're going to have this dip into a more favorable negative EPO, but it goes right back positive as we head towards Thanksgiving. What does that mean? Well, a positive EPO looks like this. It's a trough in Alaska. These are temperatures. Cooler temps in Alaska and Greenland, but a lot of warmth in the central and eastern U.S. in November. Now, we also look at our North Atlantic oscillation, and this is, like I've been mentioning, where the differences really lie. The European is going is generally still kind of positive here, but if you look at the GFS, it's a little bit more negative. A negative NAO is favorable for cold in the eastern U.S., but a positive one, as shown here, correlates to a warmer central and east, just like the EPO does when it's in the positive phase. So for us, I think the battleground comes in Greenland, and that will sort itself out over the coming weeks or coming days, I would hope. But you notice here, the European weeklies work off of the European ensemble, which has little blocking up here. And you notice it keeps that minimal blocking with a pretty stout ridge. My guess is this European weekly is just too warm. If you look at the 16 to 30 day on this model, it's just a torch. And my hunch is this is just too warm. However, you look at the GFS weeklies, and the first week of December is fairly warm there too. But notice it starts to cool off in the Northeast because you have that high latitude blocking near Greenland. So we kind of split the difference for now, and here's what we went with. We went with above normal temps in the central and southern U.S., below normal in the Northeast. That'll keep heating demand a little bit elevated. But then you look at precipitation, it's active in the northern tier, drier in the southern tier. And into December, generally, you look at our 16 to 30, which covers the first week of December. You might say, well, is this a little bit too cold of a forecast now? Well, we're still thinking there is potential as we head towards the back half of December for a rebound in the cold department. Why is that? Well, the modeling sees the high latitude blocking coming back, which is crucial for this type of stuff, right? You need to see that blocking in the North Atlantic and near Greenland to get any sort of cold sustained in the eastern U.S. So all of this is to say for now, a trend in the colder direction for next week through Thanksgiving. But as we head towards that first week or so of December, we may have a moderation, especially in the middle of the country. So that's what we got for you today. Have a great Friday, and we'll talk to you again here on Monday.